Hey everybody, Zeb here again with gonna show recent spins. So what I've been listening to lately. Got Red the Boston Terrier here. She's kind of in the middle of a nap. The first record I would like to talk about is going to be Pete Sinfield Still. This is one of the members, I believe, of King Crimson. This is on Manticore Records from 1973. I showed this as one of my finds from Half Price Books in Arizona. I've listened to this 4 or 5 times now, and it is an interesting record. I would say that that musically it varies throughout the album, in my opinion. I believe if you go onto Discogs, it would categorize this as progressive, and maybe also it might have a subcategory of folk rock as well. I can't recall exactly, but I enjoy it very much. There are parts of it I enjoy more than others, but there's nothing I dislike. There's nothing I would skip. I really enjoy it. The more guitar heavy parts, I think, are the parts that I enjoy the most from that. I know I didn't pay a lot for that. I don't think it's an expensive record. I believe you can find a pretty nice copy, US pressing, for $20 or so, and it's interesting, and the artwork is pretty great too. Got the it's I guess not ironically similar to some of the King Crimson artwork, as well as the textured cover, similar to their first couple of King Crimson's first couple of releases, or the earlier releases, In the Court of the Crimson King, as well as In the Wake of Poseidon. In the Wake of Poseidon is the King Crimson album I enjoy the most, and although I think most of their records, I haven't listened to all of them many times. Again, The Court of the Crimson King, as well as In the Wake of Poseidon, I've listened to quite a bit, and that is definitely, if one would classify that as progressive rock, then that is the type of progressive rock that I very much enjoy. This is a record that I've had various copies of for a long time. Harry Belafonte, Jump Up Calypso. This is the Calypso record with Jump in the Line, which is going to be familiar to most people from, if they haven't just heard the song in a listening experience, they've heard it on a soundtrack. I believe it's on Beetlejuice, the Michael Keaton film. And this is a record that musically just kind of puts me in a good mood. It's something I'll reach to if I may be a little bummed out or just don't know what to listen to, or maybe helps me get in the mood to listen to other stuff. Do that a lot with stuff like this as well. Sam and Dave Soul Men. This is also the pressing that I got in Arizona, and this one sounds quite good for a Stax pressing. This is I believe this is by the run out that it is a press by Columbia. I'm not sure if it was, it might have also been cut to lacquer at Columbia as well. I'm not that in the weeds with pressings, but that definitely is, I believe, pressed to Columbia, and so it sounds good. The wax is pretty quality. This would have been, I believe, the era. This would have, if it was a actual Columbia record, it would have a 2i label. Unlike this, Bonjour Paris, Michel Legrand, and his orchestra. And this is a 6-eye pressing, and it is visually quite clean. It doesn't have tons of sign of wear. It doesn't have, spindle marks. The vinyl's glossy. I've cleaned it twice, and it is noisy. And I've had that experience with a lot of 6-eye Columbia records. I've probably mentioned that before. Kind of bums me out because a lot of them you can find like this are quite inexpensive and have very good music on them. This is a, like pretty much all Michel Legrand is orchestral, and is good musically. I enjoy it, but it is not going to be if one's only maybe familiar with Legrand jazz. It is not that. This is an OJC pressing of Sonny Rollins' Way Out West. It is in stereo, so I think they technically replicated the wrong label. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I very well could be, but generally all of the contemporary records in stereo I have that are this generation have the black label with the gold font. This does not. However, I picked this up a few months ago from Jazz Bums Chris on an online auction, and it is good. It sounds good. I did not have this, nor had I heard it before I purchased this, and I've now listened to this 5 or 6 times, and I very much enjoy it. I do have a couple other Sonny Rollins records. I have Sonny Rollins on Impulse in title, and it's I like it all. I like the tone that he has. It's never, in my opinion, at least what I've listened to, it doesn't get sharp or shrill, and with horns, I get turned off with generally speaking, with the really bright stuff, even though that's the nature of horn brass instruments. I understand that. However, it's not for me, which is I think why I tend to gravitate more easily towards vibraphones, piano, guitar jazz, especially organ jazz. Those are probably, if I had to pick favorite lead instruments or just instruments to hear in jazz records in general, it would be those. And recently I've been on a big Beatles kick. I'm sure like most people, when you have a lot of stuff to listen to, there are certain things where once, 2, 3, 4 times a year you kind of go back to a artist with a larger catalog and kind of get stuck on that and enjoy that for a while, and I've been doing that. So I have do not have the mono box as many of you do. That's the only regret with records I have, is not buying that. When I was less informed of a collector, I had it available to me at a retail price and didn't buy it. That was a long time ago, before it was out of print. And an FYE store in the mall local to me had it for a long time, and I could have got it for, I believe, $400 plus tax on sale. I didn't, because at the time you could get the individual records for less than the box, and I've never been somebody who wanted the box. And although I oftentimes do spend some times with the literature, the booklet, what have you inside, and find that interesting, I'd rather just have the records most of the time, and long story short, I don't have it. So I do have a UK BC13 box set, which is what this White Album is from. It is, this has the Apple labels because it is the White Album. All of the other records that don't have the Apple label, those have the 2 EMI box. So it is all of the later stereo UK pressings of the Beatles catalog, to include everything except for album-wise. It doesn't include Magical Mystery Tour, which isn't an album in the UK. Obviously, was an EP, but I have a good substitute for that. Um, and with the Beatles stuff, you know, anybody that's grew up listening to the Beatles on LPs or has collected records for a long time is going to be well aware of this. So you may skip forward a couple minutes, but I wish I would have understood early on the importance of the mono mixes for the first two records with the Beatles, or Please Please Me and with the Beatles, as well as Rubber Soul and Revolver, because I cannot stand the vocals not being centered, and that for me makes those albums in stereo unlistenable. I do have a mono copy of Revolver. I bought the most recent deluxe box set, so I essentially paid $160 for a new mono pressing of Revolver. I'm not into the US pressings, although I have some and sometimes listen to a couple of them, especially Beatles 65 and the second album on Capitol. I really love a lot of its covers. Most of it probably technically is covers on those records, but I enjoy them. However, the UK records, they just, the track listings notwithstanding, to me, I prefer the sound of the UK mixes. And so, that being said, then you soon realize, if you go searching, that outside of the mono box and those reissues, the mono reissues from 2014, I believe it is, or 13, 14, what have you, that the UK mono pressings are very expensive, and there are no real inexpensive UK mono alternatives, because they were never really, from my research, really repressed in mono. The stereo mixes were repressed frequently, as the BC13 set is comprised of. But unfortunately, there just aren't a lot of of options, and so acquiring those can be quite expensive. And so here's to hoping they repress the mono records in some fashion. I don't really care if they're digital. I just want the mono mixes of the early records that, in my opinion, are unlistenable in stereo, or for them to simply use Peter Jackson's process to take the tapes and separate the vocals and the instruments and remix them with the vocals centered accordingly. Some of the early Beatles records that sound great in stereo are Beatles for Sale. There's that 2 EMI box Parlophone label, and Help, as well as A Hard Day's Night. These are excellent sounding. I also have the up through up and through Revolver. I have the 2009 stereo remixes from Files, and they're all I believe they're all pressed at Optimal. I have the European issues, and so I quite like those as well, outside of the ones with the hard panning. I know that those get a lot of flack, especially in the vinyl community, because one, they're pressed from Files, two, the US pressings were pressed, I believe, at either Rainbow or United. They were pressed at a crap pressing plant, so the wax is noisy, and that's unfortunate. But I didn't grow up listening to the Beatles records, so the mixes and the way they sound in that sense, I'm listening to them in a vacuum, so to speak. I had those before the BC13 box set, and I enjoy both. I think I don't know if they're so negatively regarded because of the mix, because of the quality of the vinyl for a lot of people, or simply because they're from a digital source. and I'm sure a lot of the people that don't like them have listened to, these mixes, and that's led to their opinion on that. But for me, when you listen to it in a vacuum, so to speak, stuff like that isn't really an issue. I listened to this a couple times the last 2 days. This is Pharoah Sanders. Oh Lord, Let Me Do No Wrong. This is on Dr. Jazz, which I have to believe is some later iteration of, I've never researched it, but I'm assuming it's a later iteration of Flying Dutchman, based on the way the logo is presented and the spines. This is a later recording of Pharoah Sanders from 1987. It has vocals on a couple tracks. It's very no shriekiness or shrill instrumentation on this. It's quite good. I enjoy this very much. Can listen to it at night. This is The Art of Dave Brubeck, The Fantasy Years, on Atlantic Records. This is a 2-record reissue of what was recently reissued on the new OJC campaign, Jazz at Oberlin College, or Jazz at Oberlin, but it is a college. And then this also has his concert from the College of the Pacific as well, originally released on Fantasy. And this was I believe I got this sealed. This has the little Warner logo on the bottom of the label, so this is has to be, I would assume, from the middle 70s or later. There's no SKU on it, no barcode, so probably middle 70s to late 70s. The wax is clean and sounds good. I have no other pressings of these to compare to, but sonically and musically it's good. And it's I believe that is Dave Brubeck pre-Columbia. So if you've only heard some of the the Time series and going forward, those are earlier records. I always, like I said, enjoy piano jazz. So this is a compilation of The Love and Spoonful on Buddha Records when it was owned by Arista, so this is a later record. I have all of their original records, but this has all the hits on it, to state the obvious, and very much enjoy it. Anytime I listen to pop stuff like this from the 60s, and I listen to the whole album, though, the original albums, it's always interesting to realize that their poppier hits are generally poppier than the rest of the album, and they have their sound varies a little bit. It's pretty interesting. This is Odetta at the Gate of Horn. This is on Tradition Records. This is an original pressing. It is a little noisy, even though it is visually pretty clean. And this is folk music, if you're not aware. She plays the guitar. She uses her voice as sort of an instrument, oftentimes, and has a very powerful voice. I have many of her records. I very much enjoy her, and this is one of her earlier records, probably the earliest record of hers I have. I don't know if it's her first album release. And when I was speaking to the alternative for the Magical Mystery Tour, this is it, and everybody knows that's in the know, that's initiated, so to speak. This has the true stereo mixes of the Magical Mystery Tour songs themselves, and then, but this sounds quite good. This is a later version, so it has the Apple logo instead of the Orzu logo, the grocery store logo, but it is that pressing. It's the same thing, just a later issue of it. There's many variations of the logo here for this record. They all have the same cover art, I believe. They're all on black wax, pressed in Germany. on the Apple label, and that is the way to go for that record, in my opinion. This is on Alligator Records. This is Roy Buchanan Hot Wires. This is just a modern, or 80s blues, electric blues. I often will buy anything on the Alligator label and at least check it out if I haven't heard it. I love electric blues. This is an interesting record for sure. This is new piano music. It is on CRI Records. This was very inexpensive. This was $8. It has, the artists on it are C. Curtis Smith, David Burge, David Scheitkin, Joe Hudson, and Andrew Frank. Has 5 tracks. Those are not the players on the tracks. Those are the composers. The music is played by David and Lois Burge, and they play the piano. I believe I read into this. It has some interesting sounds on it. It's I don't know if I would consider it ambient. However, it is not conventional playing of the piano. I think they literally play, use a bow from a stringed instrument to play the piano while it's open. There's conventional playing, and it is very interesting. I wouldn't say it's really out there, but definitely probably would be considered avant-garde to some degree. And I bought this at High Voltage, and it was inexpensive, and that leads me to believe that this record would always be inexpensive. So if you're into something a little weird, a little different, a little out there, but still out there musically, but not hard to digest at the same time, and that's kind of an interesting quality. I don't know if everyone would agree with that. That would be their interpretation of it. However, for me it is, and I have enjoyed that quite a lot. This is Ricky Lee Jones' Traffic from Paradise. This is a later Ricky Lee Jones record. I believe it's from the 90s. Looks like, according to the label, 93. And was repressed, in 2012 by Analog Productions. So it's pressed at QRP in a tip-on jacket. This is, I don't know how you wouldn't like this if you were into Ricky Lee Jones already. So, female vocalist. Her self-titled debut album is, I think, pretty well known, especially in the audiophile community, quote-unquote. I don't know if all of the songs are covers. However, she does do a cover of Rebel Rebel on side 2, which is a highlight for me, but I enjoy the whole album. This, however, is out of print, and the last time I looked, a lot of times when I spin records, I haven't spun them a while, I just double check and make sure it's in Discogs and in Discogs correctly if I am in the mood for it, because I am a record nerd and enjoy the cleaning and the cataloging and what have you. Not as much as listening, but I do enjoy it. And that record, I think, is probably now closer to $75 or $100, and I paid like $15 or $20 for it a couple years ago at half-price books. This is Eddie Grant, Killer on the Rampage. It has the hit Electric Avenue on it. Love it. And I'll you know, a lot of times with stuff like that, when it has a quote unquote hit on it, and just used to hearing it from the radio or film or television or what have you, then I'll, you know, put it on, listen to that, and nothing else. And I enjoy this whole record. There are definitely songs on it that if it were, say, like a CD, I would skip a couple, but I would say I enjoy 85% of this album quite a bit. It is obviously quite poppy, but sonically it sounds good. It's got a lot of bass on it for a record. Clean bass, fast bass. And it's a fun song. Makes you get up, makes you want to dance. Even if you're not a dancer, it makes you want to dance. I'm not one to dance, but it makes me want to get up and move around. This is Vicky Carr, For Once in My Life, on Liberty, post United Artists, so it's a United Artists pressing, essentially. This is a live record, so it has, she talks in between tracks to the crowd, and that makes it a fun listen. It is good musically, and it's okay sonically for a live recording, but I enjoy it that much more because of her interactions with or speaking with the crowd in between tracks, and that makes it kind of a fun listen in that sense. It's nothing, it's an inexpensive record. It's nothing earth-shattering, but I very much enjoy female vocals, and that's a good one. This is a record that I purchased within the last year at Half Price Books. It is Elton John's self-titled. It is on Uni Records. This is a U.S. pressing. It is not a first pressing. It's like a second or third pressing from the release year, I believe. It came in this, I have cleaned it, but it came in this. I'm always interested when you find inner sleeves like this that are from a store, or just the company that made them. And this one happens to be actually the right kind of plastic on the inside, so it's not gonna melt the fucking record as as some of them do. And it has Your Song on it, which I was familiar with from the radio as a kid, and enjoy this record. And this record sounds quite good sonically. I was a little surprised at that. It is well mixed, well cut, quite an enjoyable listen. I got this in California, or in Arizona, excuse me, when I went. Vampire Weekend. This is their self-titled album. Their music has always been something I've listened to continuously since I first heard it as newer music, contemporary music. But however, I never owned any of it, so I'm used to just listening it in the car on headphones, and I just love it so much more now that I have the record that it sounds quite good. There's just simply stuff on it when I listen to it on my stereo that I'd never heard before for obvious reasons, and am glad to get this. And now I'm gonna have to pick up the next couple, at least 1979 or what have you, and their third. I think all three records are kind of like a trilogy, so to speak. And I love this from front to back. I've listened to this probably 10 times since I made my last video, and I've listened to this 4 or 5 times since I made my last video. This is Miles Davis, In a Silent Way. I might even show this in my last video because I've been listening to it so much. It's my favorite non-Gil Evans related, Gil Evans related Miles album. Porgy and Bess is probably my favorite otherwise, but this is just spectacular. This is it's the Sony Legacy pressing. However, it is I don't know if it's pressed at MOV or if it's the same as the MOV pressing, which it very well may be, but I don't have any other copies. To me, it sounds good. The vinyl's quiet. It's I believe, well, it's pressed at MOV, so it's good sounding vinyl. I find theirs to generally be be okay. I don't know if I would hold it. Obviously, I wouldn't hold it, I don't think, in the same regard as QRP, RTI, Optimal, or Palas, you know. And as far as that goes, I've had warped records from all of those pressing plants. At times, many warped pressings, but as long as the vinyl is quiet and it has no pressing defects, I don't really consider a slightly warped record a defect. I would consider a defect anything that, you know, if it skips, if it pops, and it's not just simply because it's not cleaned properly, that's a defect. Because anything that's warped I can flatten in my vinyl flat. If it's a newer record, I've never had an issue flattening a newer record that was on black vinyl. But it is, like I'm sure everybody, it's frustrating when you get warped records, and especially when it's the kind of record where the price level dictates that they should have the ability to have a higher level of quality control. I don't expect something that's produced like this record to not get warped records. You know, it's a mass-produced product, and other things are produced in higher quantities. But when you get something like, for instance, a Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab record, double 45 Bob Dylan, and it has 2 labels on one side of a record, you know, that's frustrating. That's to the point where it's like, somebody, you know, you can't not notice that when you sleeve it, or at some point it should have been noticed. I guess theoretically, if you pull it off the spindle as the person packaging it, and you don't flip it over to look at it, and you just slide it in the sleeve and it's on the underside, you may not notice. But and when I say a second label, I don't mean how commonly 2 labels will get stuck on top of each other and they'll be bubbling, and oftentimes you can just peel the other one off of it without damaging the one underneath. This is literally one label, another label folded in half on top of the correct label. And stuff like that, or warped one-step discs. That's very frustrating. But anyway, I've gone on far too long, and I'm sure, like most of my videos, nobody will watch this far. If you have, I appreciate it. Shout out to Wyoming Dave. Thanks for always saying hi in the chats, in the live streams that many of us watch. It's always good to hear from you, and I enjoy it when you chime in on those. Anyway, thank you guys. I think Red's still down here taking a nap. Yeah, she was asleep. I just woke her up. You guys have a great day, and until we see you again.